Hello, everybody. I'm Kenny Graves and very honored to have on the line with me, and it's video for a change. I don't do video often. She is an award-winning jazz and pop singer-songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, a singing and vocal coach, piano teacher, performance coach. She's a bit of a clean freak, and she's one of Sweden's greatest exports, Miss Sandra Pehrsson. Sandra, how are you?
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very well, thank you.
What a great story you have, and I'm looking forward to getting into this. But we met at the Josie Music Awards on the red carpet, and I thought you had such an interesting story. I wanted to try to get you on for an interview. Thankfully, you agreed, so it's really nice to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Before we start, now you have to tell me about Lennon Snow.
Okay, so Lennon Snow, he is here, and you never know if the mailman can or something, he will definitely make himself heard. And if you want to see him, I can get him. But he is my puppy that is, okay, there he is, Lennon. And he is right here with us, of course, because he always wants to be
Wherever you
the
are.
star of the show and wherever I am. That is very true. Yeah, he's my puppy. He's named after John Lennon, of course, because I'm a musician. And I always said if I got a son, I wanted him to be called Lennon. And this is my son. Although but I did actually name my very first guitar Lennon as well.
All right.
So, and I still have it that I got when I was like 16. But yeah, he is a storm wind and a lover like me, but also a very, like mischievous little boy.
He's a good boy, though.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah, he is a good boy.
and I have to ask, what percentage of your wardrobe is pink?
Oh, that's a very good question. I haven't really counted, but I would say it's a big percentage.
More so than it used to be, I think.
I've always been a pink lover. You can ask my mother. Like when I was a little girl in Sweden, if I'm even going to go there, she said, I always had a hard time having everything, clean because you couldn't have like, your dress in one color and your panties in another, and it always needed to be pink. So I've always been a pink lover. So I embrace it. There was a time when had to de-pink for certain reasons, but like I found my way back, and I'm not going to change your de-pink for anybody anymore.
Very good. Well, let's get into your journey. Growing up in Sweden, you began writing and playing music at a pretty early age, even entering talent shows by the age of 10. So,
Correct.
how young were you when you had your first public performance?
So public performance, depending on, like the country.
Not family and friends.
Okay, well, well, family and friend. When I was little, my grandparents, my mom took me everywhere to sing for their friends and for all
Mhm.
that. But I guess that's family and friends. I did also when I was a little very young, maybe 6, 7. And I'm going to say this as a little bit of a public thing because in Sweden we have something called Lucia before Christmas, where we go and we sing in front of people. And that started when I was maybe 6 or 7 to go out into like the community and to start to sing. And I have a really active, very brain that remembers a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was very young and we were at the council office, whatever, where my mom worked, and we were like singing these songs in the dark in the morning that we do. And I was going to have a solo. And I start the solo, and then I realize as I'm singing it, I'm singing the wrong verse. So I stop in the middle of everything, like, oh no, that was the wrong verse. And then I start the. So it started early, but the bigger ones in front of like a bigger audience was when I was about 10. When me and my best friend, we started to do talent shows and we got invited to a bigger show with 802 people. And the reason why I remember that was because 800 was the maximum and there was 2 firemen. So it was packed. And that was a bigger stage that we went on, to sing, where I was really, there he is. I was nervous, but we did it. So yeah, so about 10 for the bigger stages.
Well, aside from the piano, how many instruments do you play now? There are several.
Well, there are several. I'm the best on the piano because I call the piano my second heartbeat, where I can just, something comes and it just flows. But I do play a little bit of flute, and I have a flute that's called, wait for it, David Blowie. So I thought that was a brilliant name. I have a flute called David Bowie, and I play a little bit of that. I play a little bit of guitar. I got my Taylor back there that I got inspired to play more when I was over in Nashville. And I have studied a lot of different instruments too, because I've studied a lot, in many different schools through my life. But I've done Latin percussion, which I love.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's a bit. I want to do the drum set, but I haven't mastered it yet. But that's what I want to do as well. Let's see, piccolo. I played piccolo. What else have I played? I mean, the tambourine, but I wouldn't call that, like that is
But
part of like the rhythm, I guess.
maybe the triangle.
The triangle,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably have dinged it a few times, but it's not something I would like go and say like, oh, I'm a triangle girl. You know what I mean? I can't be put into any shape, I tell you that.
Fair
Joke
enough.
aside, but yes.
Well, after studying music at several different schools, you would end up studying jazz and contemporary music at Leeds College of Music, receiving your diploma, and you were the recipient of the Best Jazz Singer Award. So, how was your time there at Leeds?
So I was when I moved there, obviously English. I was young, and English was my second language. So I was, first like slightly overwhelmed because I'm a studier, and I always wanted to be the best, best, best. But it was hard, with the language. But I felt like I managed, and I got fluent there, and it was a brilliant experience, to be honest. When I got that in my first year, like the prize for the best jazz singer, it caught me by surprise because I wasn't super confident in it, but it was something. I grew up on the Beatles and ABBA and pop and Elvis and the Rolling Stones, what my dad used to listen to, and my mom. And I discovered jazz later, but when I discovered it, it was like I mean, I hit home, like it revived me, and like I felt like it saved my life in a weird way. And so, but I wasn't very confident in it because I was like a white Swedish girl that hadn't grown up with jazz. I just felt it so when I got that prize, it was such an honor. And to me, and I loved studying in Leeds. I also ended up getting a lot of gigs there as a jazz singer, and I ended up getting a work as a singing teacher at the school as I was studying there after being recommended by my singing teacher. So I really grew as a musician, as a person, as a teacher, and in England, because Leeds was where there was the best jazz university. That's why I ended up in Leeds. Although I also actually got into Berkeley School of Music and Man, the new school in New York, and Miami University at this same time. But my mom thought I was a little bit young to move to America, and I also wanted to go to the UK because of the Beatles. So I ended up staying in England for about 13 years and worked, all over England, as a singer, and I was teaching a lot around Leeds as well.
Standing. While you were in school, at one point, you even played the female lead in Jesus Christ Superstar. How did you like stage work?
So that was also when I came to Leeds College of Music. It was the first year they were going to put up a musical, and everybody was going to this audition. So I thought like, well, I'll go too. But this was in the same where I was like, I didn't expect anything because at the time, believe it or not, I was a little bit shyer, even though I haven't never really been super shy, but you know what I mean. So I went for the audition, and I got the role as Mary Magdalena, which was also, I didn't even have my family to come and watch me there. So it was like an experience in itself, but I loved it. And what was also cool is that like one of my friends who actually I was sharing the apartment with as a study apartment, um, played Jesus. So it was a very special, experience for me to be on the stage and playing a role that is a very strong role,
Mm.
in front of people. And yeah, so I love doing it. And every time I come back and visit and do gigs in England, I usually go back to that performance room and have that's kind of like deja vu, of the Jesus Christ Superstar performance. So
Have you really done much more stage work though since that?
not a lot with musicals and stuff. I mean, I have been in a few when I was younger, but I haven't done a lot of like music theater as a job, basically, because I've mostly been working as a jazz singer or a
Mhm.
performer or a musician in different bands and stuff. But it's not something that I would love to do more. I just haven't put myself in the time of doing it, to be honest. But it's still something that I adore watching, and I do guide and teach a lot of my singing students who have auditions to do musicals and to doing musicals. And one of my students actually, he got quite a big role in The Outsiders and at the Santa Monica High School that I'm going to watch tomorrow and support him. So I always try to like support my students in their journey because I felt my teachers and my music teachers inspired me, and I want to be that for them and helping them to the road they want to go.
Well, congratulations to him. I hope he kills it out there.
Oh, he will.
Now, you would work as a solo artist and with some bands all across the UK, as well as teaching music there. So tell us about that journey.
So yeah, so when I got to the UK and I started to study more jazz, I studied in Sweden as well, but that was the major. I ended up in some bands. I started to like doing very beginning like the open mics, not open mics, but we did like jazz on Monday evenings, and that's where I started to like get into working with the bands. And then I was in several bands with musicians from Leeds and from around also, where we basically went to different places in England to do. We did actually a lot of weddings, to be honest, and the weddings in England usually takes place in castles. So I've seen a lot of castles around England doing gigs, which is amazing. I just wish you could stay there a little bit longer than just go there, set up, do your gig, and off you go. Um, but so that's how I worked with the band around England. I had a few residencies, around Leeds and in Yorkshire that I did. And some of them I did by myself, playing and singing, just me. And I was known for carrying my gear in and my piano and my speaker in my high heels and my dresses. And then when I perform, when I do solo, I take off my heels and I play barefoot. And when I've come back, to these places after I moved to America, and she's like, yeah, you're the girl who plays barefoot and takes your shoes off. So I was a little bit known for that. But then I also worked in a band called Simply Swing. We did a lot of weddings and, openings of different things where I was like the main jazz singer, and I had a band behind me as well. So, and then also working here, I know you mentioned in England, but here, when I came here, obviously nobody knew me as they knew me in England. So when people started to get to know me and started to book me, I did a lot of different other gigs too. For example, I'm hired I do the keys or the strings in like a Rick James funk band. I've been singing in a funk rock soul band as a backing vocalist with Lenny Goldsmith, who was in Tower of Power in the 80s. For 11 years, I was in that band. I've been accompanied to a rock singer. So I go kind of where the gigs leads me as well as a musician. And I do think I don't like putting like, oh, if you're a jazz singer, you can't do that, or if you're that kind of singer, you can't do that, because I believe all genres of music inspires each other, and that's why also when I went to Nashville, I'm already here in America now. I know you asked about England, sorry, but like I also got inspired by the country, so I feel like the different genres of music, as long as it's good, is like different colors in a painting, and you put it all together, and your individuality comes through.
Well said. I like that. Well,
Okay, well, thank you.
you would move to the US eventually. How did you come to that decision?
Well, so I traveled a lot. I worked a lot in England, but I also traveled, and I got like the travel bug and traveled around the world quite a lot. And when I was in Thailand, I met my first American friends, and then I started to like, they invited me. So then I came over and I kind of like discovered America. And I was actually in the like, should I go to Australia or should I go to America? Because I've been to Australia too. And when I came to the US, that was just something that clicked every time. It was just some kind of energy where I felt like, oh, I just feel at home here. And it's nothing against England because I love England and I'm so grateful for all the time and everything I had there and my friends and my career and my house and my car. Like, I felt in England I had the branches on my tree. I had all the branches, which I was grateful for, and I worked hard for it. But when I came to the US, I just felt nearly like my roots were like starting to grow downwards. And in the end, I feel like if you have roots or feel the roots, the branches will get bigger, right?
Yes.
So I ended up coming here several times and just feeling that there was some kind of energy I connected to that I couldn't connect with in Sweden or in England. And I think part of it, I feel I've always felt slightly different, maybe a little bit more open than, than some Swedish, people, and I mean, I love my country and my people, but I'm just saying I always felt a little bit different. I dressed differently. I wasn't scared of wearing pink when nobody else was doing it or like thinking differently. And I felt maybe here, I felt freer in some kind of way. And I don't mind being, looked at as weird or like different at all. But here, I just felt like I could be myself and be celebrated for it instead of being weird for it, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I
So,
know exactly what you mean.
yeah, so thank you. And so that's why every time I came here, I felt my roots just kind of like grew. And in the end, I just felt, okay, I just need to give it a shot. Even though my dad, bless him up in heaven, like he got a little nearly mad at me because he was like, how can you, like move from this good career you built up to like not knowing? And I'm just a person. If I see it, even if I don't know how to do it, I aim for it and I work for it, and hopefully things will fall into place. And so, yeah, so now I built up my career here, which I'm grateful for.
We're glad to have you. I'll tell you that.
Thank
Well,
you. I appreciate it.
another cool facet of your career is in a few years ago, you appeared in a short film called Before Your Eyes, and you appeared in the 2024 film Team of Two, along with a great cast. How did you enjoy the projects?
I mean, I loved it. To me, it's like, acting is something I want to do a little bit on the side.
Mhm.
For me, it's like more like a hobby. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm grateful to have been in it. I mean, Before Your Eyes is such a beautiful short film that is very emotional, with music, has a lot to do with music. And then Team of Two is, I had a smaller role and I was wearing pink, and that was the producer actually, the movie producer is like, yeah, wear pink. So I did. It was a smaller role, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I want to do some more of that. And we are hoping for a sequel for Team of Two, actually, hopefully at some point. So I hope to be in that one too. And it was just a great, the cast and the people and everybody, in that team are so supportive. It's not about who gets the best role or who is acting the best or that kind of thing. It feels like a family here in Hollywood, with that kind of thing. So I'm just grateful to be a part of it and do my little part in it. So
All right, I found this interesting, so I have to ask. I know that you used to sketch and paint. Do you plan to take them back up at some point?
that is something you know a lot of me about me. I love it. And
I
thank you
do
for
like my,
asking.
I do a lot of research.
I love it. Um, that is something I want to do actually, and want to do more. Like when I go back to my mother, she has my paintings that I used to do, and I'm just like, oh, I should do it more. I'm such a perfectionist, and I remember the journey of painting because I was like, oh, before it's done, it's like it's not perfect, and what is perfect anyway? But it's like it's a hard process because you gotta like, oh, but I really did enjoy doing it and I really loved doing it. So it is something I have been thinking of taking up. And I've also always wanted to do a children's book actually with music where I want to illustrate it myself. So that's on my long list of things that I would love to do. So thank you for reminding me and like opening that door again.
That's right. Sandra is going to tackle the world right there.
Yes.
Now,
What?
we did meet just a few weeks ago at the Josie Music Awards. You were nominated for an award there at the 10th annual award show, and you made the trip to Nashville. So, how did you enjoy the event, and what were you nominated for?
So I was nominated for Vocal Act of the Year, and this is my first time really being aware of the Josies. I was asked a couple of years ago, I think it was now by someone who had heard my voice, really, and she's contacted me and asked me if I could sing on her song and translate it to Swedish. Because it was a song she'd written in Sweden, I think, and she loved Sweden. So, and I hadn't met her before, and I was like, yes, I mean, it's an honor. So I did it, and I recorded it in LA, and she's in Colorado, and put it together and stuff. And then she had sent it in, and it got the nomination. So that was the first time I actually, and to me, also getting then the nomination for Vocal Act of the Year meant something because that was my part in the song. I did the vocals for it, and she did too, but like for the lead. And so that's why I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to go to Nashville for the first time and enjoy this event and, meet with you, which I didn't know, of course, but like to do the whole thing. So I really enjoyed being in Nashville even more than I thought. Within 24 hours, I've been on 3 different stages singing and met a lot of, new musicians and friends. And,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I know what they talk about, the music, the music town or music city. And the event itself, I also really enjoyed. I thought it was very well put on, some really great artists performing, and I'd never been to the Grand Ole Opry. That's how we call it, right?
Yes.
So even that, just being there was an honor for me. And I also went to the event the night before at the Country Music Hall of Fame, which was like a pre-event. So I got to see that as well. So I had a grand old time in Nashville. I definitely want to come back.
All right. Well, a little earlier, you mentioned that at one point you were a part of a Rick James tribute band. You're also a part of the duo, hope I say this right. Is it Sandra Coda?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I have been for the last few years.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that a fun part of your career, getting to share the stage and work with somebody else?
Yes, it is for sure. I think, like when you are, I mean, of course, I'm a performer, so when I'm on stage, I take a lot of space. But, when you work with someone else or with a band, when you work with great musicians and singers, I really feel you can feed each other on stage, and it's about making, magic music with voices and with instruments. And I love working with musicians who really, feel the music like I do,
Mhm.
because it becomes, again, I don't know, I see everything visual, but it becomes like, again, I see it as a painting. And, with the different musicians and music together becomes something magical. And to be in the Rick James tribute band, like, is an extra honor for me, I must say, because, there with that band, which we don't do regular gigs, but over the years, the last 10 years, we have done, a lot of different gigs. And some of the musicians that has been in that band actually did work with Rick James a long time ago.
Wow.
And the fact that I got hired as the only white Swedish female in the band is something I really value because, like I said, I didn't grow up with funk. I didn't grow up with
Yes.
that kind of style of music, and being respected as a musician and not just looked at, oh, you're or a white blonde pink girl, and get like just seen as that. I really appreciated that I got hired in this band, as a funk player for my musicianships, hopefully, and for what I do, and not for where I come from or how I grew up. So that is an extra kind of like honor to me, actually.
Very good. Well, you wrote a special original song for the Swedish church there in Los Angeles. What can you tell us about that?
So I was hired by the Swedish church, which I have done a few times here to perform at this festival, like a Swedish festival last
Mhm.
year, actually. And I was going to be the musician, and we were going to do some solo, and we're going to do the music. And so I have a lot of songs that I've written. I haven't put out, like a lot of it yet, but I have a lot of songs, and some of them I feel like I get channeled. It's really weird. Like, I open my heart to the music and something just comes out. And that's what happened with that particular song, actually. I just felt it was something that just came to me as I was practicing for that gig. So I wrote it and I performed it at the church for this event, and it was also asked. I did another actually Swedish Los Angeles Swedish Church of Los Angeles, I guess, uh, a couple of weekends ago, where it was requested, and I did it again. And our priest here, Manila, who is from Sweden, they come over and they get like a 5 year of work in Los Angeles, liked it so much that she actually wants to put to make it into like a choir arrangement and have it, performed in this
Wow.
churches around Sweden and here. So that's something I'm hoping to do with that song. It was just something that just came to me, and I feel it from my soul when that happens. And I'm so happy to hear that other people actually liked it enough to have that maybe be something that we can send to to Sweden, also to the Swedish church, but also something that could be arranged for a choir.
Something to be very proud of.
Yes, I feel proud of that, and I don't know. I think energies that comes to me too, because like I said before, sometimes I feel I'm like a tool for different energies to come for me to write the music for people to listen to. And the reason I do music in the first place is to make people feel, and to have people feel something in their heart and being able to like express it. I think that's so important. And I mean, I need to tell myself that more as well, because that is the reason why I do music, to make people feel and to make the world a better place.
Oh, I like that answer. Are there any new projects on the horizon, especially with 2025 creeping up, that we need to know about?
Well, I did start to record a jazz album, which had been on my mind that I've been meaning to do for many years. Being a jazz singer, I always heard like, "Where's your album? Where's your album?" And I never got myself around or took myself the time to do it. But recently, last year, it actually started. I did have a producer behind me, and we started to track a jazz album. So it got put a little bit on hold for various reasons with the pandemic, connected things and stuff like that. But I have tracked four arrangements so far, and I have more that I want to put into this album that is going to be a special album for me, and I think also for some of the musicians therein. And I've been grateful to have connection with some, you know, Grammy nominated jazz musicians that I have on the album. I'm also really hoping to have at least a couple of originals on that album that I've been writing recently, together with standards and arrangements of standards. And there is a particular song that actually is one of the first arrangements, which is a big band arrangement of a Beatles song that I am super excited about and proud to have, because it's an arrangement that was made for me that no one else has done. So I'm excited to see when that comes out, how people are going to react to that. So that is on my horizon to finish that album. However much time it takes, doesn't matter. Like, it's going to be done, and when that comes out, I'm going to have a big pink carpet event here in Los Angeles, and you're invited.
A pink carpet event. That sounds awesome. Well, I
Of
know
course,
that's exciting for you being such a huge Beatles fan to have something completely yours that was a Beatles song. So
exactly.
congratulations. I would like to be able to attend a pink carpet for your
Yes.
album release. That would be awesome.
Oh, you are invited. Whenever that is, I would love to see you here, Kenny.
All right. Well, anything else you want to touch on that I might have missed?
Well, it kept coming to my brain that I forgot to tell you that before I started to play the piano, I actually played the organ. That was
Okay.
one of the first, the organ with two keys.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I was very inspired by my organ teacher. So I stayed with him even when I kind of like had learned what maybe he could teach me. I stayed on and helped him teach the other kids. He meant a lot to me. So yeah, so I needed to say that too, because I remember like, no, I want to play the piano too. And my mom was like, oh, it's the same thing. And I was like, no, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
Yeah. So that, and I just also wanted to mention I also play the recorder actually. And and I just quickly needed to tell you that like the reason why I ended up playing flute as well as a kid was because I play the recorder like every Swedish child does when they're like seven about.
Mhm.
And my music teacher, who was the recorder of that was teaching the recorder, had come up to my mother at some event after that, 3 years to play the recorder, and said to my mom and said, "Oh, I wish I had your daughter as my student again." So he must have seen some kind of like music love that I obviously always have had in me. So my mom came back to me and said like, "Oh, Rune Möller, his name was," and he told me, and I said to him then like, "Okay, if he sees that in me, I want to have him as my teacher again," and that's why I picked another instrument that he taught, which was the flute. So it's actually thanks to him that I then started with the flute also. So
Is it a hard transition from a flute to a piccolo?
So the thing with the piccolo, and I used to play in the school march band with the
Mhm.
piccolo, it was so high pitch. I nearly
Yes.
got a little bit deaf sometimes. But it's similar because it's the only thing is it's smaller, obviously, but it's the similar kind of blow and the similar. It's just very high pitch, of
Does
course.
does Lennon Snow care for the piccolo? I don't think he'd like the high pitch.
He has, he has actually not heard that because I don't have a piccolo here. He does really care for the
Okay.
piano though, and he does love. And I mean, I kind of feel for him to come and say hello, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
he's such a big part of my life. Lennon, Lennon, come and say hi. Lennon, come. Do you want something? Come. Yum, yum, yum. Come. I'm gonna go. Come. Varsågod. Right.
Lennon Snow. Cute little dog.
Lennon Snow.
Yes.
Say hello to everybody, Lennon. Say hello to everybody. Is your friend, yeah? So
Well,
here he is. He has
he's
more
a
followers than me on Instagram.
he is a handsome boy. Well, I'll have to follow him on Instagram.
Yes,
I'll
please
be
do.
sure and do that. Well, before we wrap up, then, is there where can folks keep up with you and your vast career online?
Well, I have my Instagram page, of course, where I usually post both musical stuff and private stuff. It's a little bit mixed.
Yes.
I have my private Facebook page, which is not so private, but where I post a lot of things as well. And then I have Sandra Pehrsson Music also on Facebook. I do just started TikTok, like I mentioned, so I haven't got super much there yet, but who knows? I do have a website, which is just sandraperson.com. And on LinkedIn, I also have a lot, with my resume and stuff like that. I think that's a lot of social media, but
It
yeah.
is, but it's good. It gets you to a bigger audience. But spell your last name.
Yes, and before I say that, YouTube is actually where I have the most music. So I
Okay.
forgot to say that because I usually put up some videos there and sometimes I have full concerts. But my last name is spelled Pehrsson.
Right. So it's a
Yeah,
little different spelling, two S's.
it is two S's and there is an H in it too. So,
Yes.
and it's a long story that we can take another time about the spelling of my last name, but
Well,
it's spelled many ways.
well, at some point I'm going to have you back on, so we'll be sure to get into the derivation of the name.
I love that. And I'm also going to do some more country now being so inspired. So next time I come back to Nashville, I'm going to be doing some more country songs.
And if you get anything booked in Texas, be sure to let me know.
Oh
We're a
yeah,
big,
because you're in
it's a
Texas.
it's a really big state, but if maybe you can hit somewhere close to Houston, that would be great.
Yes, and I would love to do that. And I have one of a very good friends who actually moved to Texas and has invited me many times. So maybe I will go and visit and do some gigs. Who knows?
Well, I look forward to it. Sandra, it was great
Thank
to meet you the first time in Nashville. It was really good to have you on. I think of you as a good friend now, and I wish you
I-
a hugely successful 2025.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, Kenny.
The pleasure was mine. For Sandra Person, I'm Kenny Graves.
Thank you.